Okay, as we wait for our moderator to present my screen, maybe we can start with what I had for the day. I was focusing much on statistics and its importance in the world of the data. When you talk of statistics, it's all about the study that aims at collecting the data, analyzing it, and interpreting the data. When Bella was doing her presentation, she mentioned about how we can interpret the information that we have on our notebook. So as we dive into statistics, if this is the collection of data and the way you can obtain insights from it and the way you can interpret into the end user, how is it important for a data professional to have some skills in statistics? Under the statistics, for people who are in the field of data analysis, for people who are in the field of who are in the field of research, or for people who are within the business, there is need for them to possess these statistical skills for their day-to-day activities. Take me to the next slide. In understanding about statistics, there are some key concepts that you need to learn about, that you need to understand, so that it can be easier for you to interpret your information, as well. It can be easier for you. It can be easier for you as well to analyze and obtain insights from the data. Some of these concepts include, like, we talk much about a population and a sample. When you talk of a population, these are the data point under consideration. Take an example of when like a country is doing a census to collect information about the entire population. That one way on how population can be used. We also have another term we call the sample. Since working with population is very expensive and time consuming, the people within the field of statistics opt to use samples. This is just a subset of the data that can be used to obtain inferences about the data. After a sample have been studied, then uh, then the conclusion drawn from this sample can be used to conclude about the entire population. Also, we have some other terminologies such as probability. Probability, it's all about the measure of likelihood of an event to happen. We talk of probability being zero if there are no possibilities of an event occurring. And when you talk of probability being one, it's when there are possibilities of an event having to happen. We also have other terms such as hypothesis test. Hypothesis test, it's all about making decision about a population based on a sample. When you draw a sample from the data points of consideration, then you work with the sample to conclude about the entire population. When you're doing your conclusion, that's what we refer to as the hypothesis test. We also have other terms such as statistical significance. And when you talk of statistical significance, this is an indication whether there's an observed effect on the relationship of the data that you have been trying to work with. Another term is normal distribution. And when you talk of normal distribution, this is symmetrical probability about this is the symmetrical probability of the data. We usually assume that the data set we work with, they have a normal uh, they have a normal they have a normal distribution. Also, we have terms such as correlation. Correlation, it's when we want to measure the strength of the linear relationship between the different variables that you're working on. You will also find some other terms such as regression. And when you talk of regression, we talk of when you use one variable to predict another variable. Like for people within the world of the business, you want to understand why the increase in the number of sales. Is it because of the personnel that you have hired to do marketing for you? Is it because of the boosted campaign, or what is the exact cause of this increased sale? So in such instances, you can do what you call regression. We also have other terms such as confidence level. And in statistics, when you talk of confidence level, we usually talk of I can try to put it in the context of something like when we use confidence level, we usually use it to measure a precision or even to measure an estimate of something. The confidence level is usually set at 95%, meaning like if I'm working on a certain data set, and the kind of data set that I'm working on, I want to find the measure of central tendency, and in proving that the mean that I have got for a certain population is the correct mean, it means I will take 95% confidence level, meaning if I have to repeat this test 100 times, I have trust that 95 times I will do this, I will get the similar result for that data set. Also, we have what we call outliers, and we take outliers to be the data that deviate significantly from other data set. The outliers usually affect the distribution of the data, and it has a very significant impact when we are working on the summary characteristics of data. So in instances you want to do descriptive analysis on your data, you need to really check on the distribution of your data to identify whether you have these deviated values on the data set. You can move to the next one. Statistics has a very key role when it comes to the field of data science, and it's it can be applied in some of these areas, like when you're doing exploratory data analysis. EDA, it's all exploratory data analysis, or what we term as EDA. It's all about understanding the characteristics and trends and patterns on your data. We can use some statistical techniques, or we can even use graphical techniques to explain about this characteristic. In instances where you're using box plot, where you're using histogram to show the relationship of the data set that you're working on. Also, it's very key when it comes to model evaluation. For us to test how effective the model is, we use statistical techniques, including the machine learning algorithm. Also, we can use it in the area of machine learning, and when we use it in machine learning, we use it to we use it to do some predictions on the data. For you to be a better person in the field of data science, you need to possess you need to possess some skills in statistics. You need to understand some of the terminologies that are used in statistics. You as well need to understand how to apply them, as well as to interpret the results that you get, so that the end users, or even the organization you're working for, can better understand the recommendation that you give to the business. Also, it's applicable while doing the A/B testing. A/B testing is mostly used by people in the world of the business, especially when they want to to do comparison on different strategies that they use on their businesses, or when they want to compare one product with the other. If a business person want to identify why one product is fast moving as compared to the other, they can apply the A/B test. Also, it's very important. It plays an important role when it comes to statistical modeling. Uh, a data scientist is required to describe the relationship between different variables that they are working. So you can find a data professional using linear regression, logistic regression, just to find how one variable is related to each other. In other instances, it can be used in descriptive analysis. Descriptive in analysis is whereby you need to give a summary of the historical data of an organization. You want to find mean, you want to find median, you want to measure the position, or you want to measure the distribution of the data sets that you're working on. It can as well play a key role in inferential statistics. In inferential statistics, we usually focus on using samples to make inferences on the entire data set. Some techniques such as regression, some techniques such as Z-test, F-test, T-test can be used on a given data sample. Take me to the next one. There are two statistical methods that we usually apply on the data for us to obtain insights. We have the descriptive and we have the inferential statistics. When you hear the word descriptive statistics being mentioned, it's all about summarizing or even describing the main features of a data. When working with descriptive statistics, we usually measure three key things from a given data set. You can measure them. You can measure the central tendency of the data. You can measure the distribution of the data using the kutois, using the skewness, or even checking the range of the data. Also, we can use it to measure the position of the data. When you want to find the quartiles or the percentiles of the data, we use descriptive statistics. As a professional working on data, and you want to understand about the data within the organization, all the data within the business, you need to conduct a descriptive statistics. We also have inferential statistics, and inferential statistics. It's all about making inferences about the data. I mentioned that it's very expensive working with entire population of data. So the data professional opts to use some samples of the data. And when a sample is drawn from the population, then some conclusion about the entire population are made from this sample. That's what we refer to as the inferential statistic. Think of things such as linear regression, logistic regression, all those are inferential statistics. Take me to the next one. Okay, today we will focus on descriptive statistics, and we are going to do a practical on descriptive statistics so that you can understand. One of the tips on how to understand the statistical concept is that you don't need to go too fast to ensure that you understand. On a future session like this, we will focus on inferential statistics, but today we will pay much attention on how we can apply how we can use descriptive analysis on a given data set. Descriptive analysis, it's all about measuring the central tendency of the data. In measuring the central tendency of the data, we use measures such as the mean, the mode, and the median. Also, we can measure the dispersion or the distribution of the data. We can use skewness we can use range, or we can even use kurtosis to measure how the data has been distributed, and also to understand whether we have deviated values on the data set that you're working on as a data professional. Also, we can use descriptive statistics when you want to measure the position of data. For instance, like if you want to find the percentile of a given data set, or you want to find the first quartile, you want to find the second quartile and the third quartile of a given data set, that a scenario you're measuring position in a given data set. Take me to the next, please. Okay, under descriptive statistics, these are some of the terminologies that you can find, but I will better explain these uh, while doing uh, uh, the practical bit of it. Farhana, kindly share on the chat the link to access my notebook. Then you can share the notebook from your end.
Okay, just a minute, guys. Yeah, the link is in the chat. Sorry, the link is in the chat, and also I have to launch it on my site so that I can be able to share.
Okay, I used a sample of data from the Cargo dataset. Cargo is a platform used by data professional to obtain some data set that they can use. On our next session, you'll be introduced to Cargo and Cargo dataset. Let me assume that in the coming session, you would understand more on how to work with the Cargo dataset. So on this Cargo platform, just like Bera has taken you through the Google Colab, that environment where you can run your line of codes while doing your programming for data science. Also for the Cargo, they have the notebook, an environment where you can learn different line of code. Also, they have provision for different data set that you might be interested in doing. If you wonder how you can build on your portfolio because you don't have data to use, you can look for some data set within the Cargo platform. Just a recommendation, just like you have been requested to really pay much attention on LinkedIn. You as a person who is embarking on a career journey in data, also make good use of Cargo platform. Uh, we're going to focus on we are going to focus on descriptive statistics. We want to see how we can measure the central tendency, how we can measure the dispersion of the data, as well as how we can measure the position of the data. On this data set,
Actually,
the data.
Grant,
Yes, yes.
can you hear me? Actually, we still have a few minutes, so I'm just adding you like 3 minutes. Just try to squeeze so that you can get time to do an answer and question session, then close the session.
All right, there's no problem with that since the learners have access to this notebook. They can try to navigate on it on their own. Maybe you can scroll up. When working on any integrated development environment, before you start running your line of codes, you need to start by preparing your work environment. You have seen Bera trying to import pandas, to import numpys, among other packages that she was to use while doing her work. So that is the very first step that you need to do. Scroll up. Okay, I was using the Malaria in Africa dataset, and the dataset was direct from Cargo dataset. So I didn't have many processes to add the data, because it's very easy since I was also using the Cargo notebook. After loading the data, I was much interested in having a view of the data. So by using the data dot head, then 10 means I want to view the first 10 rows of the data. This is the output. This is the output that was generated after running that data. Depending on how many rows of data you want to view, you can always specify how many you want to view. Scroll. To learn about my data, I had to use the syntax data.describe. Upon using data.describe, these are the output, though they seem very tiny. Like if I want to understand about the mean, the count, I want to understand about the percentile of the data. By using the syntax start.describe, it this is the output this is the output that was generated with the information that is here. This is part of the descriptive statistics. If I had to explain about the data set that I was working on, I can simply use the syntax. Data is the name of my data frame, then dot describe is the right syntax to use for you to find the descriptive statistics of your data. Scroll up. Some of the measures that you can that some of the measures that you can use. Okay, try to scroll up until where you're going to find the mean and the standard error, so that I can explain those terms. Then others, maybe the student can go through. If I want to measure the central tendency of the data, I can measure the central tendency of the data by using mean, median, or even the mode. Mean is the average of the data set. By using the mean function, I was able to tell what is the mean of the data set that I was working on. I was able to find the average reported cases of malaria in Africa. For the mode is the most repeated number, and for the median is the number at the middle of a given data point. As a data professional, especially when you're doing the exploratory data analysis and you happen to have some missing values on your data, by understanding descriptive analysis or even understanding well about the central tendency of your data, you can always conclude whether to use a mean, a mode, or median to replace some of the missing values on your data set. Another measure that I did on this particular data set is the standard deviation to understand about the dispersion of the data. How how has my data been distributed? When we are working with standard deviation, we don't have range of when the numbers are supposed to appear, but we usually check at the positive and the negatives to understand about how the data how your data has been distributed. I also try to check on the variance of the data. The variance also is a measure of dispersion to understand about the variability on my data. I had to use the variance function to find the variance on the data set. Some other measures that I did on the data, to check also how the data is distributed, whether I had a normal distribution on the data. I had to perform some other measure of central tenderness using the skewness and the kurtosis. If from what you find, if you find a positive, when finding the kurtosis, if you find a positive value, it means your data is distributed towards the right. If you find a negative value, it means your data is distributed towards the left side, towards the negative. Also, I had to check on the range of the data. The range of the data, we usually find it by finding the difference between the maximum value and the minimum value on the data set. Also, when doing descriptive analysis, you can check at the maximum and the minimum value, which is the largest value and what is the least value on your data. I also happen to do the summation on the total number of reported cases of malaria within Africa. Another test that I did on my data, it's on we call it the kth largest and the kth smallest. Apart from understanding the maximum and the minimum value, I might also be interested in knowing which is the fourth largest value on the data set in this malaria in Africa data set. I might be interested in knowing the third least value from this data set. So those are some of the measures that I did on the data. And from this notebook, you can clearly summarize about malaria in Africa. If you The data is between 2007 to 2017. So if a person within the health field was interested in knowing where they need to create awareness on malaria awareness, on how to use the pesticide, with some of the summaries that are here, it will be easier. Statistics, it's all about understanding the concept, applying the right statistical methods on your data, then interpreting this information. You interpret information in a manner that other people who are not familiar with statistical concepts can understand. What are some of the key tips that I can leave you with, maybe that can guide you as you try to learn some skills in statistics? I have three tips for you. First, you need to have the ability to present the result. Whatever you find, how can you explain it in a manner that other people understand? Also, you need to master the basics. Understand the key concept in statistics. Then don't be too fast to learn many things at the same time. First, understand the basic as you move to intermediate and advanced. Lastly, you need to reach out to people who are good in statistics so that they can mentor you, they can guide you on your path to becoming a better person in the field of the data. Thank you for the assistant Farhana, and also thank you to participants.